To the podcast Puzzle of Us. This is Chelsea Peterson, your host from Cache Valley Counseling, and today I am so excited to have Jamie and Cameron Weston on the podcast with me. I am so excited to be talking to them and to be hearing from them about what they do in their relationship to keep their love alive. So with that, do you guys want to kind of introduce yourselves? How long have you guys been married? How many years have you been together? How many kids? Give us the rundown.
I can take it. So Jamie and I have been married for, this year will be 12 years. We've been married for 11 years, 12 years in August. Both of us, well, Jamie will probably say that she was born outside of Utah. So she was born in Henderson, Nevada, Henderson proper, Nevada. But really we both grew up about 5-10 minutes from each other in Layton, Davis County. Went to different schools up until high school, went to the same high school. Met in high school.
Started dating in like 2006, so he's a year older than me. So my junior year, his senior year, one of my really good friends played soccer with Cam. So we had math class together, but we didn't really know each other. But Jake, our mutual friend, kind of bridged that gap. So that was kind of our commonality there. And then we just dated off and on.
Yeah.
We dated throughout high school.
Then I went up to Utah State. I didn't want to be a super senior and go to any school dances. So even though we still dated, I told her she had to find her own dates for dances because I didn't want to do that.
Well, and you were gone.
So I was after graduate, I was around for almost a year.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I guess I did one semester at USU. I got a mission call to go to Italy, and the time I left wouldn't allow me to do another semester, so I came home and essentially worked at home.
Dated.
Left for my mission. It took Jamie about a week before she decided to move on and kiss another boy. But anyway, so we kept in contact through my mission.
Yeah, we wrote. He says there's one summer where we didn't. It's the summer I was in Alaska. We lived in Alaska.
Mail doesn't work going to Alaska. It's,
it doesn't work. She was there too. Same time.
Oh.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, we were there at the same time. We didn't know each other, but we were there.
So
Dating a return missionary, going to missionary zone conferences, something like that. I don't know. Anyway,
in the past,
after mission, I promised my mission companions I wasn't going to be married for a year after my mission because they thought I was just going to get married just like that.
Well, and when he got home from his mission, we kind of dated, but I was still kind of dating someone else. Anyway, then he went back to Italy for 3 weeks, and the day he got home, I left for a study abroad in Costa Rica for, was it like 3 months, I think? 2 or 3 months.
Well, anyway, I went back to Italy first, and then you went.
That's what I'm saying. You went for 3 weeks to Italy. The day you got home, I left. So that there was like 3 or 4 months where I kind of was like, okay, I think I really want to date him. So then that was like the summer of 2010. Then we dated and got married in 2011. So that was kind of a long story, but we've known each other since I was 16 and he was 17. So long time.
Yeah, so you guys have known each other for a long time, but you've been married for 12 years?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, 12 this August. So
okay, all right, 11 and a half, almost 12 years. That's so cool. I didn't know you guys were high school sweethearts.
Yes.
I guess you could say that. You guys met in high school and dated in high school. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. How many kids do you guys have?
We have 3. So we've got a little boy that will be 6 in a few weeks, a little 3-year-old girl, and a little 1-year-old girl. So 1 boy and 2 girls.
3 girls. And what do you guys do for work?
I stay home with the kids. Try not to rip my hair out.
So I'm an electrical engineer. I work at the Space Dynamics Lab. I work on small satellites. So basically
he's practically an astronaut.
Practically an astronaut is what Jamie likes to say.
That's what I tell people.
I love that. You're practically an astronaut. That's really awesome.
He's the Howard Wolowitz of Big Bang Theory.
Yes, and I always joke that electricians and engineers, there we go, that was the word that I'm saying, are two of my favorites because they're so logical, like A equals B equals C, and you're both of those. So you're like a double whammy. You're electrical engineer. So it's like there's no response. Like it's just A equals B equals C, and why is there a D before a C? So like it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
And Cam doesn't do emotion. Is that most of the engineers I work with do not do emotions.
I'm pretty good with my emotions, I think. For the podcasters that can't see her rolling her eyes over here.
Yeah, he's really.
No, that is a good.
We're working on it.
That is a good assessment.
We're working on it.
All right. Well, I love working with engineers. They're pretty great, but they are very logical and very, very in their head. So I'm so grateful I get to pick your brain tonight and see how it works for you guys. So tell me a little bit about how you guys keep your love alive and what that means to you. And like, as I sent these, podcast questions and you're kind of preparing for this, like what does that question mean to you? And what do you first think of in your relationship?
You take it first or me?
I guess to me, the thing that first comes to mind is really just obviously now that we have a family, and especially with them being young and demanding, it's really being able to find time with each other, find time that's not mom and dad time, but couple time or however you want to say it. But
Team Jamaron, that's our couple name, because he's Cameron and I'm Jamie, so it's Team Jamaron. But like
Team Jamaron, I love that.
That's so cheesy, but anyway. But like putting the kids to bed, I think is that's one thing. Like that sounds silly, but really, like kids have a bedtime today. It's like go to bed. It is bedtime. Like this is, kind of our time to be us and not be mom and dad, and kind of put those hats to the side so that we can focus on each other and our relationship and things like that. I feel like something that I don't know, I think you appreciate that I just shows I care. I like to write notes or, just get little things that make me think of him, or just, pick me ups, like send something to work with him, in his lunchbox, or, whatever lunchbox. I don't know, whatever.
You're sending bag to school.
Yeah. But, so just like little things like that. I'll write him notes or, send him texts throughout the day sometimes, but, anyway.
Absolutely. It's so hard, especially again, with young kids, it is hard, and you do have to really prioritize that, because kids in general at any age can really be time suckers away from your relationship, right? They're a wonderful way to spend your time, but they definitely don't help prioritize us away from being mom and dads.
And that's something too, I feel like, before it was like, oh, like we have to have like this designated, like big, to do to show our love or whatever, but it's like the more that the more children we have, the busier life gets. It's like it's not necessarily about like these big to do, but it's more, to me anyway, it's like just showing appreciation, showing your love, and realizing that the time that you get, like, make that time count. You know what I mean? Like paying for your kind of thing. I don't know, but
absolutely.
That sounds great. No, I mean, and really, obviously, well, I don't know if I can say obviously, because I don't know who were listening to this, but not. I don't know, the word love can mean lots of things, and I think with that time that you spend with each other, there's a variety of things that you can do with it, whether it is more on an intimacy level, or whether whether that's when you schedule your own personal me time, or relaxing, playing board games or watching videos or whatever. It has to be a variety. It can't be the same thing. And like James says, you kind of just need to make that time count and make it a priority.
Absolutely. Well, and I love some of the things that you're saying there is like make it a priority, prioritize us time, whether it be me time and it has to be engaging, right? Like it can't just be the same thing of every night we put the kids together and we do the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because that gets kind of stagnant. And it could be when you say love, it could be intimacy. It could be that space for us to be intimate together as well as just being together, playing a board game, doing those things together, but making that space for us is so important. And you guys are finding a way to do that, which is really awesome.
Well, and I think too, one other thing I was just thinking, like, I mean, like he'll, slap my butt or like I'll give him a hug or a kiss and like just little things like that I just feel like those like affections, I don't know, help kind of keep the spark alive, because there's been times I feel like where we haven't done them as much, but I just feel like kind of making that conscious effort, prioritizing.
Absolutely. And it's those little things that, like you were saying, Jamie, the bang for your buck, right? Like it's those little things, those little ways that we're finding to connect with each other, whether it be a note in the lunchbox or whether it be a slap on the butt or whether it be whatever, like something that is even, it can be very small, but it's about presence and it's about being appreciative and just acknowledging each other, which is really, really huge for relationships. That's really awesome. How you guys have kind of already talked about this a little bit, but how do you guys prioritize your time together? Right now you do have small kids, so maybe it is that time at nights, but are there other ways that you prioritize that time for your relationship?
Yeah, and I think, like as we're kind of discussing this, and I think you need to realize that also can kind of, ebb and flow with different seasons of life. Obviously for us, there's obviously been a big difference pre-kids. In my mind, in my view, I feel like we were very lucky, or worked out best for us, where we had a good, you'll know better how many years before we had, almost 6 years, a good chunk of our relationship beforehand, without kids, which obviously it was a lot, we had oodles of time to be able to prioritize relationship. And then, obviously with newborns, maybe that goes away and it's, you're really trying to find little bits and pieces here. Anyway, yeah, kind of coming around full circle. What was I saying? Oh yeah, like it just, that kind of varies from, from different, or how life is going for you. But I don't know, some of the different things that we tried, or one thing that we do try to do is get away from our kids, even if it's just, at least on a yearly basis, whether it's a bigger trip or even just something that's overnight, and try to pawn them off to the grandparents or whatever, just to be able to just have a little bit more of an extended amount of time versus an hour here and an hour there.
Well, and that's like too, so sometimes the trips are big, but like once a year we try to like at least go overnight, a day, 2 days, whatever, just us. And Cam said, pawn them off on the grandparents, but sometimes like we don't have as much family, I don't want to say support because we do, but like
close by in the valley, or
it's not as easy for our family to watch kids. So like that's something that like even we've like found sitters and paid, because that's important to us. Like we've had to budget or whatever, set aside that money to like pay somebody to be able to watch our kids so that we can focus on us, which I mean, I feel like that is something that like you have to make it a priority. Sometimes it's not easy, but like you've got to kind of find a way. But that's something that's worked for us. Also, like we both play soccer, so we don't always get to play together, but every once in a while, I feel like when we had less kids, it was easier for us to go play, pickup. There's a group that plays pickup in the morning that we would go, play with, which was fun to be able to play together. There's been a couple times with our league teams where we've been able to sub on teams together and play, which is just fun to see us both, still doing stuff that we love. But, we've played pickleball, like we just try to do things together. I feel like Cam is really good at trying things that like I want to do.
Like
he
this
doesn't really have
Like what?
like
Yeah,
like-
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah,
but like
drag onto the podcast.
yeah, no, but really like things like that, like that he would never really want to do, he's willing to try. Like sometimes at night I'll be like, hey, do you want to do like a yoga workout, or I mean, I don't know, he's probably not as keen on yoga, but like, or a hit or something, and he's like, yeah, sure, because he knows that that's important to me and that's something that I like. So he's good at like, I mean, he may roll his eyes and he may say things sometimes, but he is good at participating and trying it with me. And I mean, I try to do things with him, but he doesn't really ever tell me what he wants to do, so he gets to do what I want.
Whatever.
I'm just kidding.
So
No,
Jamie's
he's good.
the party planner.
Yeah,
Jamie's
exactly.
the party planner, and Cam just shows up.
Yeah, but like,
But I mean, going off on that, but I feel like, there's obviously a handful of things that perfectly align with both of our interests. Soccer is one of them. Jamie mentioned pickleball. There's a couple of sports that that perfectly align, that both of us like, and then there's other things that maybe more align with one of us versus the other, but is still has some interest. So I wouldn't necessarily categorize it with something that would be like a me time thing, but like like Jamie said, me doing a yoga workout, Jamie, I could care. I'm gonna say it wrong because I'm gonna be on a podcast. I couldn't care less about doing, I could. I don't know.
you couldn't
Edit it however you want. I don't care. Yoga would not be my first pick, but that's but it's something I can spend time doing, something with Jamie, so I'll do it. I really enjoy camping, which might not, and dirt biking, which might not be Jamie's first choice, but she is, is willing to support us going camping or whatever. So there's certain, and like Jamie said, there's certain aspects of it that she might enjoy, but there's kind of this kind of merging of interests that, yeah, exactly, where you're she mentioned board games. We kind of have two different varieties of board games that we like. So on some nights is
I just love playing games, period. I love games, but he likes strategy games.
She loves it until she loses, and then that happens for both of us.
We
both hate it when we lose, but anyway.
But
yeah, that's the thing. So like, obviously, like if we're playing board games and it's more catered to me, there's gonna be a strategy game or something. If it's more catered to Jamie, then I'm giving a little and doing a word game or something with her. So there's kind of finding obviously the very concrete interests that we both really enjoy, then also kind of giving a little and finding some shared interests that maybe is maybe caters to one person over the other. And kind of
finding that balance of that kind of give and take of I don't really like doing this, but I'm going to anyways, and I'm going to come along for the ride. And it doesn't sound like it's always one person, right? Jamie isn't always the party planner. Cam, you do like to do something.
He does have, yeah, he does.
If it's up to me, it's like what you said earlier about just getting in a rut and do the same stagnant thing over and over again. So that's when Jamie needs to, yeah, that's when she needs to party plan and steer us into something else.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go back to like, well, why don't we just go camping? Why don't we go dirt biking? Why don't we play the same game? Whatever it is, right? Yeah, absolutely. This is totally like, can you guys just speak to that 6 years that you had before you had kids? Like, how important do you feel like that was for just kind of establishing your foundation of your relationship? And what did you learn in that?
Well, I just feel like, sorry, I've got to put my knee up. Sorry, podcasters. Anyway, we just got to be us. We got to do lots of fun things. We got to try things, go places. And I just feel like it really solidified our relationship because, I mean, I feel like once we had a child, like we struggled with infertility a little bit. So like we were like anticipating it and we were hoping for it and stuff. So we were super stoked. But I mean, it totally changes the dynamic of your relationship. you know, like you are no longer focused on just Cameron, like this baby is our kind of our main priority, you know? So I feel like it helped to kind of build that foundation and have that foundation because we, how do I say it? Like, I just feel like we like knew each other well. So when I was dedicating my time to this new baby, I don't feel like Cam was getting butthurt because he understood. I don't know, like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like we had a foundation. So like it really helped once kind of like, you know, life's changes and life's curveballs kind of happened, if that makes sense. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously anybody that, you know, that has kids, you know, they're a blessing, but they're they're definitely a strain on relationships and definitely hard work. And like Jamie said, by having those multiple years, it kind of it sounds bad, but helps you weather the storm, I guess, with, you know, with kids and with any difficulty that comes by, just kind of, helps you weather the storm. It also allowed us to both get master's degrees. I'm not saying that you can't do that without kids or with kids, but
just pursue some of those goals that we wanted. And I mean, I do feel like we just, I mean, he's my best friend. I mean, I've known him since I was 16, but like, you know, marriage and that relationship, like just really solidified that relationship and that friendship. And I mean, he's a rock, like he's been a rock and he's been there for me through so many things. And so those years where it was just us, like we had time to figure out a little. I mean, obviously we're still, you know, it's still ebbs and flows and we're still changing and things, but figure out what worked and what I like and what I don't like. And you know, he knows when
I still have a lot to learn there.
When I've got that look in my eye to leave me alone. No, I'm just kidding. But
I'm still learning that one, you know.
It's always a work in progress. Absolutely. Yeah. But as relationships are, right? And like, again, starting that foundation, just so having that time together is really helped you guys solidify a friendship and solidify just kind of likes, dislikes, how each other works, how your partnership works. What did you call your team?
Team Jamaron.
Jamaron. Team Jamaron was established. Like, really, like, to use a sports analogy, you got which positions, who plays what, and what goes when you change positions, where do I go? And then just adding parenting to that rather than getting married and adding kids right to that. And it can be a little bit more difficult. It definitely, people do it, but it is
doable, but yeah. I feel like for us, that was the right, you know, that worked for us pretty well.
So is there times like with that being established at the beginning of your relationship, were there times in your relationship that it maybe was a little more difficult to prioritize your relationship, like maybe having kids or during a master's program or things like that? Like, were there those times and how did you get back to prioritizing? How did you talk about it? Like, hey, we need to spend a little more time on us. How did you navigate that?
Newborn babies.
That stage,
that's the hardest stage for us. I mean, they're obviously.
I love that stage, but it's a lot of strain on a relationship as a couple.
They're very needy, obviously, and just the fact that they're constantly with you, whether they're, you know, by your bedside. They're just always there. You're exhausted. You're not getting sleep. So that was always a hard one for us. You know, so it was always, you know, with all three of us, like, you know, you finally get the kid down and you just want to collapse on bed and you know, get your 3 hours of sleep in before they wake up again or whatever. And so especially for me, it was a lot easier to find the most easy, relaxing thing to do, which was, you know, read a book, watch TV or something, just something that's very just, you can be a vegetable and just sit there and just not have to work. And
but I feel like to kind of counteract that or whatever, like once we felt like we were kind of getting in a rut, Cam says that it's me that usually brings us out. I don't know about that, but it's like so lame, and admitting it anyway. I feel like at times we would schedule it, like an actual calendar event, and say like, we are setting aside time to do something for us. And so when that and it was like weekly, you know, and sometimes it was like, like, really, do we have to do this? But it's like, just like making it a priority, like scheduling it into your day. As much as we all are so tired, you know, we're tired from working and taking care of the children and etc. I feel like that was something that kind of helped us like be able to like get out of that rut, is to have it on the calendar. And I know that sounds so silly and like so not romantic, but like it worked, and it's worked for us. And that's silly, but you know, it's our type of brain, I guess. That just like, it's there and we do it and it works. So
exactly. Well, and that's why I love doing this podcast, and I'm excited. Again, what works for you may not work for someone else, but someone else may not think to like, well, that's so unromantic, I'm not scheduling it in, but it works, right? Like it helps you prioritize it, and it got you through those moments. It got you through those harder moments where it was like, I just want to go to sleep right now. I don't really want to do anything. But it got you through, and it helped you continue to prioritize. And that's what, like, that's my hope for this podcast, is that people really can learn from everyday regular couples. And it's not just someone saying, hey, you should try scheduling it, but like, look, this is a real life couple who it worked for. And it's
so
great.
nerdy, but that's us.
I love it.
Well, and sorry, I think too, to cut you off, but like just the little things, like the little time. So like, yes, we would schedule it, but also like realizing that like, you're not going to have all that time in the world. So like, you know what, I've got 10 minutes. Let's just 10 minutes quickly reconnect type thing, you know, in those times when it was a challenge, like with the newborn phase, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That was also something I feel like that kind of helped. It's just realizing it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like in my head, sometimes I'm like an all or nothing, but like that's, don't you think?
Yes, very much.
So that's something that I've struggled with, like to try to realize that like it doesn't have to be an all thing. It can, or a nothing thing. It can be a little thing, or it can be a little more thing too.
Yeah. Yep. So speak to us a little bit about that. Like when you say connect for 10 minutes, like what sort of things would connect you for 10 minutes? Like, do we have a conversation? Do we check in on the day? Do we, like, what does that 10 minutes, like that, I've got 10 minutes. Do I sit on my phone and scroll through my phone? Do we sit next to each other? Like, what do we do in that 10 minutes? If you were to give that advice to someone, what would you say?
So we might touch back to this if we come back to a different question, but like couples inventory, we are so nerdy. Like that just sounds so cheesy, but it's also a calendar reminder. But it's like, so this is like, you know,
she removed it from her calendar because it's more for me. Because as you'll soon learn, as you can tell, I'm the communicator, I'm the talkative one in the relationship, and I'm really good at communicating. And so
great. No,
it really was helpful for the engineer over here to like, okay, like I need to have a time to express my emotions that I have so many of.
Well, and just
but really, yeah,
say,
just kind of.
I appreciate how you did this. This really helped me out today when you did XYZ, or like when you're, you know, like struggling with XYZ and
bringing up, concerns about the kids, or how to parent so and so, or what we can do better to each other. Or I mean, that's a great time to bring up if things are going stagnant, or
so and that helped.
Talk to us a little bit more about the couples inventory. Like how often do you do it? Did it take you a long time? Is it something you do still on a regular basis, or only kind of when times are struggling? Like, when do you use it? How do you utilize it?
So I feel like it started when things were like, when we were struggling, you know, when we were ebbing. And is that the right word? Instead of ebbing and flowing, right? The ebb. Okay. I'm like, right. So that just helped that. But, and like Cam said, it was annoying to me after a while to see it, because it was like, I'd look on my calendar and be like, oh, I have something. And then it was like, oh, it's just couple inventory. That sounds bad. But it's actually really good. So it's like, it's scheduled at 9:30. And so it's like, we just touch base, and Cam lets me know how his day was. I let him know how my day was. we bring up any concerns we have, any, like for me, I'm always telling Cam like more is more. So like, give me the details, let me know how your day was. He can tell me about his programs at work. I can tell him about, you know, what happened with the kids or, you know, whatever. And I mean, it just is nice for us to touch base. And then like, if there's anything, hey, I am struggling with this, like one of my children and I have been kind of butting heads lately. And so I'm like, and he's just so not reactive, which is a good thing. And so I'm like, hey, what can I do? Can you please help me? And so it's good for us to kind of just bounce ideas off of each other. You know, which it's not long. It's not maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. Sometimes it may be longer, just depending on like
what happened during
how the day has gone. But it really is nice for us to have that time to just really touch base with each other, because
do it every day.
Yeah.
That's the intent.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
so at most, you do it every day. That's the intention.
Yes.
If you're off doing something or whatever, it may not happen that day, but it might happen the next day. But you do it every day.
Or like if it doesn't happen because we are doing something, because like a lot of times it will be happening when we're like at our soccer games or whatever. When we get home, hey, just so you know, like it was a good day, like whatever kind of type thing. No real problems, whatever. So that'll be just like a 20-second, not even, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but just like some acknowledgement of it, of like, oh, hey, we didn't do that.
On my mind. Yeah.
Which I mean, I know it sounds like maybe that's overkill, but I feel like I said, for me, honestly, he always calls me like Nosy Nelly. More is more with me. Like I want to know, like I love to know things. I do. I like to know.
So much so.
I like to know what's going on. Like I want to know. So it helps me. It does. Like it makes me just feel, I don't know. And I think
that little acknowledgement of like, oh, hey, not happening today, not a deep conversation, but there's some acknowledgement, probably really does help you. There's so many people, the couples inventory is something I talk about often with couples in doing, and some people do it daily. I think you guys might be the only ones I've actually heard of doing it daily, but which is awesome. It's worked for you. You found something that works for you.
That works.
Some couples do it by the week, right? Some people do it like bi-weekly, some people, but they schedule it into the calendar. And for many people, particularly men, maybe even particularly engineers, I'm going to pick on my engineers here for a second, but they like have to see it because it's like, okay, now is when I have to like put on my emotional hat and give my partner more, or like feel the emotions for this 10 minutes that we're going to be having this emotional conversation. But it's not going to be, I'm not blindsided by it. I know that it's coming. I can prepare for it. And then I'm not on this like pins and needles of like, oh, when are we going to talk about that thing that happened, right? We can kind of move on with the day or move on with the week, and then check in with each other during our couples inventory, whenever that works, right? Whether you do it daily, like the Westons do, or whether you do it, monthly or weekly or whatever it is. I think it's so awesome. And I'm so glad to hear that it's been helpful for you guys. And so again, just another touch point for you guys to say, hey, I see you. I know what you're going through. Check in with each other, set individual goals, right? Like, hey, did you finish that book you were working on? Or like, whatever you guys are doing, just kind of have that touch point throughout the day, which is so important for couples, but especially really in the stage of life you guys are at, in that really very young kids, very needy kids. It's so important that touch point, which is really awesome to hear about. It's really cool. Cam, how do you feel about the couples inventory?
It helps me out. You rolling your eyes, but no, it's good. I was gonna say the only other thought I had too is, certain things don't have to wait until couple inventory. There's especially like, I don't know, one example I just thought about it just the other day, like even praises that may come up during the day. I well, was it Sunday? I don't know. I felt like Jamie handled a certain situation with the kids very well. It's not like I need to hold on to that and wait till, that night or whenever, or your weekly one or monthly when they bring it up. But even just like a little thing, like, hey, like I thought you handled that situation really well. Good job.
And that's big for me because that's not normally, well, like, I don't feel like he's normally one to like express things like that. So that's honestly too, for me, like why, like the daily couples inventory, like it's just, I don't know, it's helpful for me because I'm very expressive. I have lots to say and I have a lot of emotion and he doesn't. And I feel like trying to find that balance. So the quick, like, it's not always a long, inventory. It really isn't. Some days I feel like there's more to say, so it is a little bit more involved, but it is just for me, for him to be able to like express himself, and like I can have that from him because I feel like I want that from him and I need that from him. You know what I mean? And so it's like a good way for him to be able to do that. But like I do like appreciate when he says, like when he noticed that, like that meant a lot to me for him to express himself that way, because that's not something that maybe has always
It's
been
normal
like
for me.
innate for him, if that makes sense, So it's like cool to see that, like to see him respect or like appreciate me in that regard,
Yeah. And what do you guys usually do? You have like 3 or 4 questions that you go over, like regular questions that you ask, or is it just kind of you've done it so often, you're kind of in the habit of like, this is what we're asking, this is what we're talking about, or are there like specific questions that you go through? Because again, structure of these could be very little. It can be huge. They can talk about finances. You can talk about sex. You can talk about in-laws. They can be so big and so broad. Like that would be a lot to talk about every single day, right?
Yeah.
But how do you guys structure yours?
I would definitely say it probably really isn't structured. I'd almost consider it more like an open forum of just kind of bringing up whether it's something that maybe it's something that maybe I'm actively working on that Jamie's aware of, to kind of bring up progress on that, or observations made, or observations / suggestions of things that happen during the day, or like James, like maybe concerns or
like, I mean, for me,
questions,
like how I said, like me and my one kid were butting heads a little bit, and so it's like that's kind of been like for me the focus of like my couple inventory with him, and he's aware of that. So like if he notices good things, or if like he notices like critiques that he can say like, hey, like maybe you could try this, you know what I mean? So it's like I feel like we're like generally on the same page as far as what the inventory is about, but it is pretty open forum as far as if there is anything that you want to bring to the table. But like, so I wouldn't say there's necessarily like questions that we have that we ask like each day, but it is just like an opportunity for us to kind of like touch base.
I think Jamie brought up or hinted at an important thing of using the word critiques. I think it gives a great time to bring up constructive criticism or feedback, because you've kind of separated that feedback from the actual situation, whereas for both Jamie and I, receiving feedback in the moment, in a stressful or moment, it won't be received as well, right? For me, it goes in one ear and out the other, or whatever, but like being able to kind of separate the situation from the feedback kind of allows the other person to be more receptive of that feedback.
Yeah, that's again, it's so beautiful. Like you guys have found a way to make it work in your relationship, which is really, really awesome. And I hope listeners and people listening to this can really take this and make it their own as well, because and learn from you guys, because it is such a great thing to be able to have that space, to be able to be open enough to receive that critique or that constructive criticism from my partner, to also then be able to give it again. There's just that provides just such a sense of openness, right? Like we are a team, and I'm not perfect and you're not perfect, and together we're sort of working to be the best that we can. And I think that's really, really awesome. Jammer-on. You're just making the best Jammer-on you can.
Jammer-on. Yes.
Love it. Love it. That's really, really awesome. How do you guys support each other's me time? We talked a little bit about kind of doing individual time, and you both mentioned like playing soccer, doing different things kind of on your own. Like how do you schedule in that, who gets what, whose turn it is? Like how does that mesh in your relationship? How does that work out?
Well, I mean, first off, obviously it's evolved as everything does over our relationship. I think, we both realize or understand how important it is and how much it benefits and affects us. And so I think really trying to organize my thoughts. I think really that the most important thing is being supportive of me time. To me there's two separate types of me time, at least that happen in our relationship. One is, the kids are down, so we have free time. Let's make that, that can be me time. Jamie can go do her jigsaw puzzles that I don't want to do anything, I don't want to do it. And I can read a book, or I can play video games, or whatever, it's
Or
very
nerd out on a computer.
or nerd out on a computer, right? Just be an engineer or whatever, like that is very easy because we are taking the time and we're both able to do our own thing. The harder, what maybe kind of be the harder me time, at least for the person not getting it, but can also be probably the most beneficial, is the me time where it's me time for only one person. That could be going to San Diego for Ragnar, for Jamie, for a weekend. For me,
a weekend, that's right.
For a week, it felt like a week. It was. For me, it's going on, on a overnight or a couple night dirt biking trip with friends. And that's obviously very rejuvenating and very refreshing for the person involved, but it's also very draining and very hard for the person not there, or that's not enjoying the me time at the moment. And I think two things are very important for that. One is one thing that we've I feel like have improved, not that we're ever bad, but improved greatly over the last year or two, is being very supportive of when those opportunities come up. There's been times where, for examples for me, where dirt biking may be a month in advance or whatever, or it may be like this coming weekend with very short notice, and I'll call up Jamie and say, hey, I had this opportunity to go dirt bike, and the first thing she said, yes, you need to go. That's the first answer, is just yes, go. Yep, we'll figure it out. We'll go ahead and go do it. So I think that's one important thing, is just being very supportive of it up front. And then the other thing, which has been, I think, a big improvement for both of us, and which is the hardest part, is being supportive during that time. There were, Jamie probably has examples too, but I have the floor. There would be times where, whether I'm gone for work, which is not technically a good me time, but obviously it is me time, or dirt biking or whatever, to where like the most dreaded thing for me is hearing my phone buzz and being like, oh crap, what kid is driving Jamie nuts or whatever, like, what is she gonna lay into me saying how crappy it is at home or whatever, and like that just greatly takes away from me enjoying it, and it almost makes it more, from me time, the more of like a guilty time or whatever. And I know I said, Jamie, I do this, I do the same thing for her. And I think that we have really tried hard over the past, however, year plus, of one, not only just kind of just don't bring it up. I think the other person realizes that it's going to be hard, especially Jamie, where she's home with the kids. She knows it's going to be hard for me, right? Because she has to deal with it every day. Like
I get to deal with it every day.
Like, she doesn't need me bringing it up. Like, don't ruin their me time by saying how horrible the kids were, how hard it was to put them to bed or whatever. Like, just let them enjoy it and focus on the positives or whatever, and let them know the positives or whatever. And Yeah, me time is very,
Yeah.
very important.
Which Cam's really supportive. I mean, I feel like I am too, but like as a mom and as a wife, I feel like it's hard to do me time, like especially like leaving and going somewhere. Like for me, I don't know if it's just me or everyone, all moms, but I feel really guilty and really bad leaving Cameron home, like, you know, to be with the kids. I don't know why I really struggle with that, like the guilt. So him being supportive and saying, no, like, absolutely, you're going. Sometimes it's like, I'm like, no, like, I don't want to go. I'm not going to go. And he's like, you are going, like, please, you are going, you need this. And so he's super supportive in that way. And we kind of touched base on it too, but I feel like it's important to have our own hobbies. Like, yes, we play soccer and we do those things together, but like, he likes to dirt bike, and I mean, not that I don't know how, you know, but like, so it's like that's his thing. And like he said, puzzling, like I love puzzling, and like running, and like when we did do that trail run, like it was so fun and something that like I enjoyed, where like he couldn't care less to do something like that. So to have our own hobbies and to kind of be our own individual people, I mean, really helps to just kind of refresh and reset you as a person, as a couple, as a, you know, as a family, parent, all of the things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Me time is so important. And those, I think the way you described me times, Cameron, is perfect, right? In that those little moments that you have of just like, whew, I get to take a breather for a minute, or those bigger weekends, or the night outs, or the evening away from the family or the kids, or sometimes it just, those, they vary, and they're all important. And it's important to support that, because it also helps you feel refreshed and like, okay, yeah, this is, keep going, but also really supportive of that as well. And you guys have learned, it sounds like you guys have learned how not to do things sometimes, and how that maybe wasn't the most helpful complaint that I just had, or how to save that for later, right? Again, like just that continuing to adjust and adapt to where you are in lives, and learning as you go, which is really awesome. What do you think puts the most strain on your relationship?
Well, initially it was families, like, of origin. That honestly was like one of the only things that we ever strongly disagreed on. Like, it was just like the way that his family did things and the way that my family did things was like, holy crap, like we have got some serious like bridging to do. And I don't know if it was me like being reactive about things and him not, but like I think because some of the things it was like, dude, like this is not okay, like we need to like figure this out, but he was like just so used to it, you know. But then also some of the things is like, you need to just chill out because it's really not a big deal. So that honestly,
she was the baby in her family,
and he's a middle child, so
but that honestly, child and the spoiled baby, there you go.
Yes, and that is me to a T. I was, but so that was really hard, honestly. Like that was literally probably 95% of our fights, I guess you can say. Disagreements. They were not fights. I mean, we're family.
That we disagreed most on was just kind of how family of origin, how we learned how to do things, and sort of bridging that was kind of the biggest,
and what was expected. And yeah, exactly. I feel like something that like we've already kind of touched base on a little bit. Communication is something that is a strain. It's not a big strain right now. At times it has been a big strain, but I feel like communication is something that we are constantly working on. Me refraining and him expressing more. Like I said, more is more with me. Like I want all of the things and all of the details. Like I need that. But then also like I need to just give Cam a second to answer my questions, to respond, to express himself. And yeah, Cam, I'm just reading what we wrote down. Cam needs to work on his RBF, his resting you know what face.
What does that be stand for?
Sometimes he has a nasty.
Is that root beer float?
No. Resting you know what face. He can have a nasty face and I can be really sensitive. So that's something I need to work on, not being so sensitive. He needs to work on being a little bit more endearing with his facial expressions.
It's the goatee, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got that mean goatee, no. You know, and like even
it worked really well as a keeper in soccer. Like,
yeah, he was very intimidating. No, but like in me, like managing my expectations, like realistic versus like irrational expectations and that type of thing. I think those are things. So like that was kind of like, I feel like communication is kind of the umbrella. And to me, those things that I just kind of touched points on are like the fingers of that. Would you agree?
I definitely agree that Jamie needs to learn how to communicate.
I do. It's not just like expressing. I agree, but you need to express more, and I need to not.
I need to be able to take the thoughts in my mind and make words out of them.
Exactly.
Yes. You need to connect the dots with words.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And Jamie needs to refrain and maybe connect the dots before she speaks.
Exactly. See, so it's not always a good thing that I'm verbal. It's not. I know that about me.
That's the dot. Verbal is how you connect that A equals C equals B. So it's like I have to talk to get it out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But again, it sounds like you guys, whether it be family of origins or just ways of being, you are different people, but you found a really, really great middle ground of how do we make time to really express more, be together more, prioritize our time together, prioritize us time, whether it be this little time we have after kids go to bed or the yearly get out, go for an overnighter, whatever it is. It sounds like you guys have really found that rhythm to your relationship and really how to prioritize and make it last, which is really awesome. It's really cool.
So far.
What are you guys most proud of as a couple?
Cam?
What am I most proud of as a couple?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, the thoughts that I've had, I feel like we've touched on most of it. For me, like honestly, it really was really just the different phases of I really enjoyed the fact that we were able to have multiple years together with no kids. I think that really helped our relationship to really allowed us to, like Jamie said, it allowed us to go travel, to go to school, to really just get to know each other and just develop a friendship. And really, I mean, even just dating beforehand, it helped us develop the friendship. I always I remember when we first this community there's one of my communications stopped in my head and I didn't spit it out loud, but that's probably for a good thing, because I remember when we first moved into our house as our student house apartment, we essentially had the choice of going to for church, going to a normal family congregation or going with other students. And the first Sunday we were there, we went to a family congregation. And I remember introducing myself and just saying, I've been married for like a year or whatever. That wasn't even a year. I guess a month or whatever, however long, because it was an English form. Saying for a month. And I remember someone like making a comment about like how short of a time frame that was or something like that. I can't remember how he said it. I almost want to just be like, well, if I was to add how much time I've been with Jamie, it's probably more than you've been married or whatever. But I kept that to myself probably for a good reason. But no, like honestly, I really do like that we've been able to have the time to develop a friendship. Really just having that time together.
Well, and I think for me, I said, like, marriage hasn't really been hard. Like, I know for a lot of people, marriage can be hard. That doesn't mean it has been without struggle, disagreements, like we've mentioned, disappointments, but like, we are a team, and we've worked hard to get to where we are, and we're still learning, and we're still growing, and there's still things that, grind my gears that he does, and vice versa, that I do that bug him. But like, being married to him is fun. It's not work. It's not hard. Like, I look forward to that. And I think that kind of what Cam touched on, like that foundation, but like, I really am proud of that, because I've talked to, a handful of friends, like, and they'll bash my one friend in particular. I can think of, like, she was constantly like throwing these little digs about her husband. And I was like, I didn't have anything to say about Cam. Not that I didn't have the digs that I probably could have, added, but it's like, what good does that do? Like, I don't want to paint him in a bad light for her. And then anyway, so I just think that, like, it's just fun, and he's fun to be married to, and it's been fun, and we've had fun, and it's not easy, but it's like, it hasn't been hard. And so I think that goes, I think that says a lot about us as individuals, and also as a couple. I don't know. So,
Absolutely.
and
It really does. You guys really do, whether it be that you guys knew each other for a long time before you got married, or that those years you had together really building that foundation. You guys have sort of figured it out in the midst of living life. And not only are you having fun, but you're also figuring out how to do relationships. And it isn't always roses, and it isn't always we're completely on the same page, and you butt heads a little bit, and you don't always agree, and you might have different parenting styles, but you're working through it instead of being divided, right? Like, well, you do it that way, and I'm gonna kind of talk about that, with my friends or whatever. Like, you really are together, right? And there's a lot of that, you call it cheesiness to your jammer on and your team feeling, but it is so. You guys are incredibly lucky, but have also, what I think people don't realize is it has also taken a lot of work, right? It hasn't been hard for you, but it's been work, and it's been a continual work, and it's something that you do every day. And it's those little check-ins that you do every day, those little, appreciations that you send in the lunchbox to work. It's like, it's those little things that really, it does take work, but it's also fun. And you continue to care about each other, and you continue to show up and show appreciation and show love to each other, which is incredible. And it says so much about your relationship, and is so many people could learn a lot about about how to do relationships well from even some of the little things that you've talked about, which is really awesome. You guys kind of talked a little bit about like your biggest strength, but what would you say your biggest strength is as a couple?
Well, as a couple, or can I kind of touch individually?
Individually, okay? Great, yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like, you probably have gathered from this podcast, but Cameron is level-headed. He's very patient, and he is very optimistic, which sometimes he's painfully optimistic, and he's slow to react. Like, I feel like all of those things are like, honestly, what I love about him, because he's like he's just this, and I'm like all over the place, and that has been so good. He's been really grounding for me. Like, I don't feel like I had a supportive upbringing, but I don't feel like I had that kind of like that stability like that he has provided for me. And he really is like the calm to my storm. Like, he helps put things into perspective for me and with me, and not that I always like want him to or agree with him at the time. Like, it helps though. Like, I think I come around usually with the perspective, but like he really is. He's just kind of like that solid rock that like grounds me, that helps me to be grounded and not take life too seriously, because I'm pretty serious with a lot of things. But he lightens the mood. He's goofy, he's silly, and he's just really,
I don't have RBF the whole time.
no, not the whole time. But he has it when I don't want him to. No.
You're doing
but,
really good. You want to describe yourself too?
Yeah, I can.
Just joking.
I'm like, I can because I didn't.
I think the biggest one that you'll see that Jamie can expand on this really well. And I pick and choose my words more. No, Jamie is a very organized person. I think the big thing that I can see that has really helped out me and our family and our couple is she's the one that will take something and like put it into action. Like if it was just me at home, like everything would be a complete mess. We probably would be eating cereal every night. Nothing would be cleaned, and whatever vacation we had planned wouldn't be planned. We wouldn't be packed or whatever. Like Jamie's like the one's like she's one that's noticing, and not in a bad way. Like wow, like our house has gotten the disarray. Like it's time to pick up, or like hey, so and so's birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks. We still haven't planned anything. Like we needed get them some things going or whatever. And so it's like she really like if we have a goal or something that we're working towards, like she's the one that's like getting us like making those steps and like marching us towards meeting those goals. Where me, I for some reason I think it's just going to happen.
No.
And maybe it's such a good job that I know it's just going to happen. And then the other big thing that she really helps out with is she's not afraid to bring up topics that need to be addressed. I think that's her family versus my family thing, and like her personality. She's not afraid to bring up things, whether we're in a rut or whatever, like bring up things that we need to work on, or that things that just need to be addressed. It usually starts with her, she's not afraid to address the elephant that's in the room, or however big or small it is. It usually starts with her. It is a good thing in the end. And then she is definitely the thoughtful one. I mean, just both of our birthdays were last week, hence why the podcast is postponed. So it wasn't a blessing on my birthday. I didn't want to interfere with my birthday. But on this topic of thoughtfulness, like you can really compare our two birthdays and just see how well she is versus me. Like, I wake up on my birthday and I get a homemade meal of my, a French toast, like French toast for breakfast. I had with homemade syrup that was made the night before. I had the kids brought me cards that Jamie had to help them with. I had my own birthday cake. And I had my favorite dinner, whatever, favorite homemade dinner, blah, 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 thoughtfulness. And then we go to her birthday. We won't talk about years in the past where Jamie will bring up that she just had half of my cake, but I didn't make a cake. We'll talk about just this year, but it was like, I went and bought donuts for breakfast, and I think our oldest wrote a card, but it didn't have the cutesy handprints and the little family. It was just, but anyway, it's like then it's like, oh, she got crumble cookies for her birthday cake, and store bought. I got her a Dr. Pepper because she needed her soda fixing for for however long it's been or whatever. But there's definitely a different level of thoughtfulness or whatever.
But he still tries. But that is true, because in years past, my birthday's 2 days after his, and I usually get half a birthday cake with candles. It's fine.
Oh yeah, she got brand new candles though. She did get new candles.
Oh, good.
They were a hit for the family. They definitely beat the candles she got me.
Oh, so whatever. Anyway,
that was obviously the individual thing. I don't know. I know obviously some of those translate over the couples, but I think one thing that has really worked out for us, or that I feel like, and it's probably the same for everybody, is like we have a lot of opposites, and it has really worked for our benefit.
Yeah.
And obviously being able to recognize those opposites and just and lean on them, and take advantage of those things.
Totally.
It's just helped out. Some of the things that aren't opposites, like competitiveness, don't always benefit. When we're playing foosball together or against each other, like there can be some heated moments, or if you're not flipping the card in the right direction. I mean, like competitiveness can creep in there, but for the most part, I feel like we've been very lucky to have attributes that work well. And I think that goes, obviously any couple can find, they're all, everybody's gonna have the qualities that are going to mesh well with each other. And I think everybody just needs to look and see what those symbiotic qualities are and be able to leverage those. And I think there obviously we'll have more discoveries in the future, but I think we have a great understanding of what each other's qualities are and how we can best use those to have our relationship grow.
I agree.
Which again is really awesome, and you guys do a great job prioritizing your relationship, whether it be in the couples inventory like every night or just acknowledging each other on the daily, which is really awesome, and using your opposite strengths for the good of your relationship, right? And taking Jamie's organization and having it in your calendar of like, oh, it's just couples inventory or whatever it is, but she's organized, it's in the calendar, it's scheduled, it's planned, and she's sort of making things go, dragging us along, making us have conversations that maybe I wish we would avoid, but somehow we're having them, and somehow we're better on the other end of it for having them. But again, that give and take, but also that in conversations and in emotional work that you guys are doing, but also just in me time and being able to spend that time together and apart, and really being able to prioritize your relationship, which is just, it's really awesome. You guys have a great relationship, and others can learn a lot from you. And so I'm really excited for people to listen to this podcast and hopefully get a ton of information on how to really make it work. Make it work. It's so awesome. What advice would you have for anyone in a committed relationship? What would you tell them? Anyone who's struggling or wondering, like, is it even worth it to stay in relationships, or is it worth it to be married, or what advice would you give?
For me, what I thought of, and that has really what mitigated a lot of heartache. That's maybe a strong word, but like, tell your spouse what you want. Like, for the longest time, I would want, flowers from Cam, or I want him to tell me I look pretty, but like, not that he doesn't think those things about me, but like, they are not on his radar. But to me, that is something that helps me. So I have told him, like, Cameron, it wouldn't kill you to tell me that I look pretty. Like, when you notice that I've gotten dressed, or like, if not dressed, but like ready, like, I want you to tell me that I look pretty, or I want you to compliment me. Like, I need that from you. Or like flowers. Like, he thinks that's a waste of money, but I like to have flowers. So I've told him that you need to buy me flowers. Like, you can buy me flowers. So that honestly has helped. And that sounds dumb. Like, I know I keep saying that, like, things are nerdy, like we schedule things, but that's really, really helped. Like, if I want flowers, if I need more sex, or if I need him to talk more or whatever, like, unless, like, it's not going to happen unless you tell him. Like, he's not a mind reader, and I shouldn't expect that from him. Like, that's kind of like back on my expectations. But like, once I've told him these things, if they're not happening, then I feel like that's where the expectation, but it's like, I've addressed that. And I don't know, that's really helped. I think helped you, and it's helped me not be so upset because he's not doing what I want him to do, that he didn't know what I wanted him to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was really good.
Was it?
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. What other advice? Me
What other
time.
advice? What
Me
advice
time
do you
is
have,
very
Cameron?
important. Find time for me time.
It is.
And
Just be
really,
supportive.
yeah, and one thing that I feel like we're realizing more and more, especially when dealing with kids, is the fact that, how do you say it, that two things are true. There's not just one right way. You might not agree with the other truth, or what they see as truth, or what point they're trying to make, but I think it's important to realize that everybody has different perspectives,
Yes.
and to validate other people's opinions.
Don't put them down.
Yeah.
Don't shut 'em down.
But yeah,
I do. That two truth thing is something that, like, I feel like we've kind of just come upon, but it's really, I'm not always perfect at it, but it's so true, because there's always two sides to things. There's two things are true, and just because what you think is true, or what you feel is true, doesn't mean that what he feels isn't true. And that's some way that you can kind of bridge that and work together to overcome or learn and grow. So
Absolutely. And that's such great advice to give to people who are in a relationship, and to tell people exactly what you need, to tell your spouse, this is what I need, this is what my expectation is, this is what would help me feel more love from you, or feel more needed or seen by you. And to know that, maybe we're not always on the same page, but there are two sides to every story, and to support each other in that me time, and be supportive of each other. It's great advice for any listeners out there, and for anyone who is wondering if relationships can really work. The Westons are really doing a great job at having a great relationship and navigating their way through it. And that's great advice for people out there who are searching for any advice. But we are so grateful that you were on our podcast today, Puzzle of Us podcast, from Cache Valley Counseling. And we're so grateful for you guys, and hopefully you all enjoyed listening to the Puzzle of Us.